Oh, it's hot. Okay. Hello, you wonderful assorted internet-going fleshbags. Today I'm going to be talking about Stranger Things Season 4, Part 1 and Part 2. So, in case you didn't know, I am a rather massive fan of Stranger Things. I've liked it for maybe 2 years now, it's all blah blah. But I think it has been 2 years, around since roughly Season 3, when there was a lot of buzz about it, when it was becoming more well-known. Everyone was talking about it, so I thought, hey, let's see what all these young whippersnappers are talking about. And so I liked it. So Season 4, as you know, has come out, and so since this is the first one since the debut of this channel, I thought, yay, I finally get to talk about it with relevancy. Because I could have just gone, hey, 3 years from the first season, let's talk about Season 1. It's probably even more than 3 years, but no. Okay, I digress. So we're going to be talking about Season 4, Part 1 and 2. So without further ado or chit-chatting, let's get into it. Okay, so to the unenlightened, Stranger Things is essentially a show that stems from one event, which is the disappearance of a boy called Will Byers in a small American town called Hawkins. It's a horror show slash thriller slash mystery. It's a lot of things. The show has changed a lot since little Will Byers disappeared all the way back in Season 1, and I'm not going to go through everything that's happened in between now and Season 4. I'm just going to assume you know. If you don't, probably not the best video to be watching because you won't know a thing I'm talking about. Let's get into this thing. So, as I said, this season is split into Part 1 and Part 2 for reasons I'm not entirely sure of, but it's split into two. The first, spoilers. Okay, we're going to put a spoiler warning here because I always forget to put these until I actually spoil something, and I'm like, hey, yeah, spoilers. So, spoiler warning for all of Stranger Things. If you haven't watched it, you probably have, but if you haven't, spoiler warning, please click off now if you don't want to get spoiled. If you don't plan on watching the show, I mean, you're crazy if you don't, it's very good, but if you don't, stick around if you want to. I mean, won't recommend that either. But you know, there we are. So where was I? So Season 4 Part 1 was really good, I thought. We're just going to go straight into what I liked and what I didn't like. So this season follows on, I think, kind of a few months, might have been a year after the events of Season 3. So just to summarise the end, one of the main characters, who is a police chief called Hopper, died. Characters of Will, Jonathan, Joyce and Eleven moved to California. Eleven's lost her powers, and the rest of the crew stay in Hawkins. So that's where we are, and you have 3 different plot lines throughout all of this season, both parts of California peeps, Hawkins peeps, Russia peeps, but we're not there yet. So we sort of kickstart the season with a whole load of new characters being introduced. You've got new characters in Hawkins with Eddie Munson, who we'll talk about a lot in this video. You know, I got the shirt, and Jason, whose second name I don't know, you know, just Jason. I think they're the only new characters in Hawkins. And then in California, you've got a girl, spawn of Satan, girl called Angela. I think that's the only new character. I mean, there are lots of new characters because we're not going to go into that because they're all like mini side ones. Oh, and a guy called Argyle, who's basically a drug addict who is friend, you know, like he smokes weed, who's friends with Jonathan. He's fun. So those are all the new characters, and the first episode really just lets us get to know them and also introduces the new horror villain elements sort of things of this season in the form of Vecna. So Vecna is the big bad of this season, and as it turns out later on, the whole show as a thing, as a unit. He's just only started making his first person appearance now. And going straight into what I liked. We're going to start with what I liked. And then I might go into what I didn't like, and then we'll go into more things that I liked, because I'll probably forget to mention things. So, I really liked how this guy was introduced. He's kind of like a side plot in this first episode, following this girl called Chrissy, who is seeing things like clocks and hearing disturbing things. And seeing a guy. It's not like a guy. It's like this monster humanoid thing. She's seeing all these things. She's confused, and so she seeks help in our new character Eddie, who is the dungeon master of Hawkins Dungeons and Dragons Club, or Hellfire Club, and as I said, I have the shirt. So she goes to him to buy some drugs because she's like, I just want to stop seeing this. Understandable. But when she goes to Eddie's caravan, she's killed by this new villain, and this is a scene that's going to be ingrained in my memory for a long time, because it really took me and my parents who were watching it with me by surprise. She rises into the air. She's kind of in a different place. Her body is there, but her mind isn't. She's like stuck in her own brain with this man, this Vecna, right? And she's seeing all these kind of spooky things while she's running through her house away from this guy. But then she gets to the front door and it's all boarded up, and so she's cornered, and he just walks up to her while, being all spooky, and then puts his hand in her face. And at this point in Eddie's trailer, she lifts up, and then all of her bones break themselves. It's like a messed up game of Twister. It's like, her eyes get pushed into her head and her jaw dislocates. And yeah, you see all this. It's not just like, a police autopsy later says, oh, this happened to her. You actually see it all happen, and it was pretty horrifying. I was laughing nervously, because it was like, oh my god, so this is where we're taking this, okay. So I thought, just as an introduction to the villain, this was really successful, because I personally don't think he looks very scary. I remember complaining quite a lot about how he kind of looked like a Power Rangers villain, which is a very poor comparison, because the VFX with this guy and a Power Rangers villain are not comparable. But he just kind of gave me that vibe. But I thought showing how he kills people, the things that are associated with him, these weird visions, made him a lot scarier than it would have just been like, here's the guy, he's viney and got a beer gut. I don't think he has a beer gut, but I had it in my mind he had a beer gut. But anyway, moving on, I thought that was a really good way to introduce the character. And a lot of the other characters were introduced really well in this as well, like with Eddie, instantly. From his first scene, he's sort of like a fan favourite. You like him from the first scene you see him in. Jason isn't really prevalent until the second episode, but yeah, again, he was introduced really well. That's all good. We like this. I really enjoyed Season 4, Part 1. Just as a whole, I thought the whole mystery thing, like, what is Vecna? What's he doing here? And there's this plot later on about, Eleven's gonna get her powers back. And, she's having weird flashbacks. What's that about? There's a whole load of just, what's that about? And it all comes together really nicely at the end, I think. And I said previously that there are like 1 hour episodes, and there must be like 8 of them. So it's 8 hours, probably more, of television, and it should have been lengthy, but I feel like they handled it really well, having all these different plots intertwined, because as I said, you've got Russia, Hawkins, California, and I thought all of them playing out was handled really nicely, and I enjoyed that a lot. The acting was phenomenal. We've got to talk about, I can't name the whole cast, I'm afraid, but just everyone in the show was giving their top performances in this and Part 2. If I were to name my favourite characters, I'd probably say, controversially, this isn't in the show until Season 4, Part 2, but we'll mention her anyway. We've got, Eddie. We like Eddie. Sorry, I was like, my brain just went, no, I'm going to stop working there. We liked Eddie, we liked Murray, we liked Yuri, and we liked Katrinka, or Kablinka, or whatever the helicopter's called. Her character development was so touching. I mean, no, yeah, but, yeah, I really like those characters. I've always liked Murray, and Yuri is a new character, as is Eddie, and I thought both of them were really endearing, and their performances from the actors were really good. And the whole cast were, as I was saying, they were putting their words, Sorry, 1 minute. Okay, they were giving their all in the whole thing. No! Oh my god! we forgot about Andrew Garfield. Don't do that. Okay, we're talking about things we like, so we're going to turn him round. There we are. Happy Andrew Garfield for now. So we liked all of that. Gosh, I'm trying to remember all of the stuff that happened in season 1 part. Season 1 part 1. No. Season 4 part 1. I think it was, as I was just saying, it was all really handled nicely. Because this could have gone wrong really easily, and it kind of did in part 2, just having all these different plots, but it didn't feel weird. Just a side note, the plot in California was probably, for me, kind of the weakest in the first season. What was that? It's like a baby shark? No. God, no. Sorry, I had to remind you of that. It was kind of the weaker one, because, it was just a lot of talking, kind of, with Eleven. I mean, I don't know, I can't remember it very well, I just remember not caring as much about this part as I did about everyone else, kind of because it felt like there was a disconnect from everything else that was happening. Like, what was happening was important, but there was, like, because of all the stuff happening in Hawkins with Vecna, with Joyce and Murray going to find Hopper in Russia, it kind of just didn't feel as interesting. But it was still good. There were moments in this involving Satan and Angela. I hated this girl so much for the very little screen time she had, so props to the actress, I'm sure she's lovely. Her character was not. She was this bully who was really nasty to Elle for no apparent reason, and it was soul-crushing. And something that I thought was handled quite well was that the Duffer Brothers wrote it so that they had me seething and frothing at the mouth for this Angela character to die, basically. I know it sounds terrible, but I really hated her. And there comes a point where Eleven physically assaults her because she's had enough. And it was kind of a moment where I was like, I should be enjoying this, but I realised how bad this is going to reflect on the character and the implications of this. No, the ramifications, what's the word? The consequences. I was just kind of like, bittersweet, so I thought that was well handled. That's basically season 1, part 1. Oh my god, season 4, part 1, okay. And, quick side note, another side note, PSS, or PPSS, I don't know, we don't write letters. I thought the reveal at the end of the season with, who Vecna was, because as I said, that was an ongoing mystery, was really well done, because they actually managed to link in pretty much every plotline. There was Eleven's flashbacks that she was having where she thought that she was a monster. There was, because she thought that she had killed all of the children in this facility she was in Hawkins, before season 1. There was Vecna as he is, and there was, this character of, there was the first family who Vecna killed, supposedly, and then there was this character in the facility with Eleven, all these sort of little moving pieces that you didn't think could be connected, and it turned out that Vecna was the child of the man whose family was killed, so he killed his family, Vecna did. He was the man in the facility who tried to help Eleven escape and killed her peers, and he is Vecna as well. So, I thought that was, a really good reveal to end the season on, and I was like, wow! It had like a nice little bow on top. It was just handled really nicely. So, great reveal. That had my jaw on the floor. Had to pick it up and get it back up. So, that's season 1. No! That was season 1. Season 4, part 1. Words. Season 4, part 2. This is where the criticisms begin, I'm afraid, but we'll focus on the happy things. No, we're going to criticism first so we can end on the happy things. So we're just going to have a little review sandwich. We're going to have some positive bread on the bottom. We're going to have some negative filling in the middle. And we're going to have some positive bread on top.
Where's the lamb sauce?
So, God, what is wrong with me today? Okay, so, I'm noisy at drinking tea. I've got really sensitive lips, so it just gets warm and I don't like it. Anyway. Sad Andrew Garfield time. So, season 4, part 2, was kind of a letdown for me. If, season 4, part 1, I've not said season 1, part 1 yet, but, if that was, let's say, like a 9 out of 10, this was more of a 6 out of 10 for me, at least. I know a lot of people with part 2 were like, yeah, I love it, yeah. I was like, oh no, I don't like it, yeah, no. And I kind of felt like everyone hated me because they were like, what, no? But I wasn't feeling it. But we'll go into why. So the first episode of part 2 was forgettable because I've forgotten everything about it. So we're going to assume that means that it was overly long and forgettable, because I think it was, if I'm not wrong. There are some good scenes in it. It ends with a character called Dr. Brenner dying, and Eleven basically leaving him to rot in the desert, you know, basically getting closure on her trauma and finally standing up to this figure who had been affecting her even after he had left her life for a long time. So that was a great moment for her as a character, and we appreciated that. That's all I remember. I'm sorry. I really am. That's all I remember. Oh yeah, and there was a whole lot of stuff in the Upside Down. That wasn't. I don't know. I really don't know what happened in this episode. So we're going to assume that it was forgettable. We're not going to assume it was bad, but we're going to assume that it was not the best. And season 4, part 2, episode 2 was better than the last one, but worse in ways that I will go into. So in this one, everything's going on. Eleven is trying to... let me sort of give a brief overview so that I can reference it later. The people in Hawkins have got a plan how they're going to kill Vecna. They've got certain denominations or little duos or trios of the group doing certain roles, and the first part is Max basically letting Vecna possess her and try to do the thing that breaks your bones, right? And in California, but kind of not in California anymore, Eleven is trying to go into Max's brain to protect her from Vecna. So that was good. And then in Russia, Joyce, Hopper and Murray were trying to kill the Demogorgons and particles of the hive mind in this Russian prison to try and weaken the hive mind, as I said. And I've heard a lot of criticisms about how this didn't feel relevant. And I get that, but because they had kind of established this as a hive mind before, when they decided to do that, yeah, it kind of felt disconnected, but it didn't feel irrelevant. And some of my favourite moments from this episode were in this plot prison place. So I don't personally mind that, so that's a positive. So we've got some positive lettuce with our negative filling. I need to stop that metaphor, that's weird. Metaphor. But we're just going to go straight in, dive right in and say what I didn't like about this. So, if you were in the circle of people who like Stranger Things in the build-up to the release of Part 2, I'm guessing that, like me, a lot of people and yourself were guessing who was going to die in this finale. It's like, it was kind of like, yeah, I reckon 5 main characters are going to die, and it's this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And I was on board with that as well, and I was ready for the whole part Volume 2, kind of for the last one, for main characters to die. In the build-up to this release, I had basically gone through all the 5 stages of grief related to the character of Steve Harrington, because I was so convinced he was going to die. And I was just, like, stealing myself for when he did, and then he didn't, in short. In fact, Dr. Brenner and Eddie are the only people who died. And, I loved Eddie, as I said. He was a great character, the actor was superb, he had charisma, and he was relatable, and his plotline was kind of tragic. And when they killed him off, I was disappointed, because I wanted his character to survive. I didn't like the way he died either. I felt like he kind of... he had a plotline about not running away, and so in his part of the plan, he had to distract the new Demobats from the main house where Vecna is, in the Upside Down. But he ends up... that ends up failing, so he ends up sacrificing himself to distract the bats, which kind of seemed like a dumb move, because after killing him, they could have just gone back to the house. So I get he had this plotline of, I'm not going to run away anymore. But equally, if he had run away, then he would have been okay, and the bats wouldn't have had the opportunity to go back to the house. So I liked how they ended the plotline, but I kind of feel like maybe in the place it was, it didn't feel right. It kind of felt like a bit like, okay. But I actually wanted him to die to the Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody
the Spanish Inquisition.
It's not the Spanish Inquisition, it's Jason. Jason and his basketball group blamed Eddie for Chrissy's death, and Chrissy was Jason's boyfriend. No, Chrissy was Jason's girlfriend, right? Okay, there we are, sorry. Speak. Words, sentences, paragraphs, phrases. So, yeah, so he was hunting Eddie down for most of part 1, and I really enjoyed that. And then in part 2, it kind of just fizzled out. They never got to him. There was never a standoff or a climactic battle of morals, you know, where Eddie was like, I didn't kill her, and Jason's like, oh, that's exactly what someone who killed her would say. Or, you know, that's kind of where I thought he was heading. So him dying with the bats was fine, but his scene leading up to that, where he was playing his guitar with the bats swirling around him and a red lightning storm in the background, you can't not like that. That was like testosterone fueled. At the end of it, I had hair on my eyelids. So, it was great. But, I just didn't like how he died. And then, leading on to character deaths, later in the episode, but not much later, Max dies. She gets Vecna'd, she floats in the air, her bones start to break, her eyes start to bleed, and then the crew managed to incapacitate Vecna. They didn't kill him, which was kind of cool, because we need him, because he's now the main villain, right? So, Max dies, in effect, and there's this really emotional scene with Lucas holding her and trying to tell her, you know, don't die, and she's like, I can't see or feel anything, I'm scared, I don't want to go. And I was like, oh, you're making me cry now, Jesus. And then, she died, and I was like, wow, that took balls for the Duffer Brothers to kill this character, and now Vecna's master plan has been achieved, and the Earth is splitting as the Upside Down joins with our reality, and I was like, oh my god, this is crazy, they are all gonna die, and that sounds maniacal, but it's just what I was expecting, right? And I was like, they're actually doing it, wow, okay. And then 11 turned into Jesus and made Max's heart start going again, and then Max comes back, the apocalypse ends, and she's in a coma. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Max. I need to get this right there. So many people have accused me of hating her. I don't hate her, I just was ready for her to die, and it felt right. So when she did, and then came back, it felt cheap. But if she has a purpose in the next season that pays off in a way that I enjoy, then I'll take back what I'm saying here. But I just felt like they shouldn't have killed her if they were going to bring her back, if that makes sense. I think they needed the Earth to split open. But there could have been better ways to handle it than doing the whole make you get upset and excited and then being like, yeah, no. I that's just how I feel. And Jason died when the Earth split in half as well, and that was really satisfying because you see his bones just go because he's in the middle of where the divide is, and I was like, yeah, suck it. But yeah, again, that stopped us from getting the scene with Eddie, but Eddie was already gone, so but I would have liked it if maybe he could have stuck around a bit more, because he didn't really have a character arc, he just kind of went psycho, and then that was the end of him, and then he died, so it was a good unravelling story, but I would have liked to see where it went from there, but that's just my opinion, so there we are. So that's my main gripes with it. If I were to get nitpicky, there'd be a few other things that I would say. I didn't like it, what was it? The Mind Flayer was my favourite villain in Stranger Things up till now, and don't get me wrong, I like Vecna, but the Mind Flayer as this eldritch, Lovecraftian god entity was so appealing, because you don't see that in movies very often. It's usually a humanoid whose motives you can kind of comprehend. I get that cosmic horror isn't everyone's cup of tea. Speaking of cup of tea, let me just but it was something new, and so I was kind of like, oh, Lovecraft in a mainstream TV show. Oh, and then it turned out that the Mind Flayer was basically Vecna's dog. He'd just formed it into the Mind Flayer shape out of particles at the hive mind when he got thrown into the Upside Down, or shall I say yeeted into the Upside Down by 11. And he basically imprinted upon it, as far as we can tell, and gave it its goals. He was like a puppet master. So I was kind of like, okay, it didn't sit well. I don't mind, but it kind of just made, because it was my favourite villain, I kind of felt undermined. I was like, that hit personally. So I'm hoping that maybe in season 5 it will get its own sentience and either turn against Vecna, or maybe, I don't know, in some way outdo Vecna and become the main bad guy, which probably won't happen, but because I did like this so much as just a villain, and it looked so imposing as well in the sky, you know, this shadow thing silhouetted, well, a silhouette against a red lightning storm, it's just so intimidating, not in the same way that watching someone twist to die is intimidating, but just in this impressive, ooh, it's like, I hope this thing likes us way, you know, I don't know, it just, I won't talk about that anymore, that was just a small gripe. And there was another thing that I was going to talk about that I have forgotten to go into, and I will inevitably remember later. Oh yeah, the ending just felt a bit rushed at the end, so the ending of the ending. They all got back home, they had their teary reunions, this is the people from Russia, California and Hawkins. They all got back home, they reunited, and then they realised that the cracks in the earth have opened again, which felt a bit weird, because they had moved location as well, because they were originally right down the centre of Hawkins, and now they're just like a bit more northeast, and I didn't quite understand why, but that'll get answered later. But I felt like that was just a bit rushed. Might just be me. It's probably just me being cynical and old and moany and British, I don't know, but those are my criticisms. But talking about what I did like in this, the action, happy Andrew Garfield time. Action scenes were superb. Mainly in Russia with like Hopper and Murray killing the Demodogs and the Demogorgon. That was so cool. Like flamethrower and Hopper's like standoff with the Demogorgon with his sword. And the moment he picked the sword up, I was like, oh my god, he's gonna decapitate it, and then decapitate it, and then he did, and I was just like, yeah, that's so cool. And you watch his head fall down, and it's just like, bellissimo. But then you had Eleven versus Vecna, which was cool. Oh my god, sorry. Quick, Andrew Garfield, unhappy moment. Yeah, again, with the characters not dying, it was really annoying because it feels like the whole main cast has plot armor now, and it's just like, you know, kill a main character for once. They've just killed side characters this whole time. No one major has ever died, like the thing with Max. At like the midpoint or the 3/4 of the way through this episode, everyone was about to die, and then Mike gave a speech to Eleven and power of friendship their way out of it, and that was good for Mike because he's felt a bit useless for a while, and I think he felt useless, so realising that he was important was good for him in his character curve. I know it's character arc, but we're going to use the terminology character curve for reasons I won't unveil. But it was good for his character curve, but I just kind of felt like, no, like, Steve was going to die, and I don't want Steve to die. God, I don't, but it was like he was going to, and I was ready, and it was like, ah! But then she power of friendship, and it was okay. Okay, minor thing, there we are. Back to happiness. So, yeah, the action scenes were really good. A lot of the emotional scenes were delivered really well. Eddie's death scene, Max's death scene, well, Max's not death scene. Okay, it was emotional when she survived as well, in an angry way. I was like, you could see smoke coming out of my ears. I was like, no, I've been double-crossed by these random people that I don't know, you know, but, yeah, that was really good. As I said, the performances were still top-notch. That was Katrinka or Kablinka. Yeah, I should know her name if she's my favourite character, right? The helicopter was in this bit, this episode, so, yay. I don't know why I'm obsessed with this helicopter, but it was just like, I like Yuri so much because he's funny, and a lot of, one of the funniest moments was directed towards the helicopter, so I like the helicopter. I don't know, the comedy in this was actually really good, because this was a dire situation, and characters like Murray, Yuri, and Argyle did really well at lightening the mood, just like, whoo, instantly. It was good. They were excellent comic reliefs. Hello, this is Frank in editing here. I just wanted to quickly touch on something that I forgot to mention in the main video, and that was the moment between Will and Jonathan in the pizza place in part 2. Because there's been a lot of stuff about Will possibly being gay for a while now, and there have been moments where you've seen that Jonathan has noticed hints of what's going on here, and he talks to Will in this pizza place in an inadvertent way, just saying, look, if you ever want to talk to me, I'm here. And that was really touching. I really liked it, because Will and Jonathan have kind of been on the sidelines for quite a while now, since sort of season 2 and 3. and most of season 4. So just having this one moment was really nice, and it was a really nice moment, and I just feel like I needed to mention that. So there you are, back to past me. As a whole, our sandwich, which I said we wouldn't finish, but our sandwich is complete. That's the review. I would love to know what your thoughts are in the comments. Now, because I don't amass a large viewership, it's just going to be my friends who I've already spoken to watching this, probably. So I already know your opinions, but if you've got any other things you want to share, or anything you'd like the world to know, I say the world, the other people who are going to watch this video, please leave them down there, because I was going to do this as a live, but it didn't feel right. So I like having discussions with all of you crazy people. So if you got any thoughts, leave them down below, please. And we'll leave it there. Well, rating this as a whole, we'll give it a 7 out of 10. That's actually quite solid. People will be like, 7 out of 10, how dare you? It's not that. That's actually quite a solid rating. And that could easily improve, seeing how maybe some of the things that I didn't like pay off in Season 5, if that makes sense. I'm excited for Season 5. Sadistically, hopefully, some main characters bite the dust, with any luck. Am I right? Yeah, have a great one, y'all, and I'll see you next time, where I'm either, because I need to message this person, going to be talking about how to about representation of LGBTQ+ characters in media centered around Raymond Holt, or a review of the 3rd season of The Umbrella Academy. We'll see where fate leads us. Adios, amigos. Bye. Thanks for watching.